All right, what's up, guys? Today we're going to be going over my Juggernaut Impale Cyclone Flicker Strike character. The Flicker Strike is for clear, the Cyclone is for single target, and the Impales are for just a lot of single target. So I guess we'll do a quick map. Hopefully I have one in this region that I'm trying to get the Crusader to spawn in. I haven't really been able to figure out too much of this new stuff that's been going on. So needless to say, I don't follow the game and its updates too much. Alright, so this is two bosses. Unique boss gets more damage, more attack speed. I wish it was more health so I could show how much damage this does. But yeah, just a white T14 map, I guess. I'll do a metaphor morph too. So yeah, standard build. I don't play as much as y'all guys do. But I think that if you're kind of like me, where you jump around games, you'll really like this kind of play style. It's just dominant. It's big, beefy. You can get more damage by going Berserker, or even more damage by going Champion, since you're Impale. So Champion gets 2 additional stacks of Impale. Huge. But I prefer the beefiness because sometimes I get lazy and my mind wanders, and I watch a show or something, and my character poofs. So I like being all tanky, and I go with Juggernaut. So if you're like me, and I know you are, you'll like this build better. So you might ask, how do you get your Flicker Strike online? Well, they updated Flicker Strike a few patches ago, maybe like a year ago. Yeah. So a year ago, they updated Flicker Strike, and you can get charges off of hits with your Flicker Strike, and you can get Blood Rages. Also gives you Frenzy Strikes. So basically all you need, I don't remember what the update was exactly, but basically all you need is Flicker Strike, you need Blood Rage, and multi-strike basically. And your multi-strikes are really good at giving you more frenzy charges too. And so you just go through, you one-tap all these mobs, and it acts sort of like a consecrated path, except it just has way better cleanup and it's fully fizz, so it works with Impale better. And sometimes you can clear like 2 or 3 mobs at once depending on mob density. So you use Melee Splash with Ancestral Call for just lots of hits, and then that spreads your Impales, that spreads your damage out really nicely amongst the wave. And then you use an Explodey chest for cleanup, or if you're like me, you make an Explodey weapon. I put all that work in so long ago. might as well use the really sweet weapon I made, especially when they just buffed two-handers. So. Alright, let's check out this boss, see how fast he goes down here. Yeah, basically you apply like 9 impales a second or something like that, so you get the impales up there really fast, and yeah, just a really great way to do single target, because you can kind of like move and dodge sort of when you do that, when you use your Cyclone. Other skills you kind of have to like buckle down. I don't really like that. I feel like I die a lot if I have to choose between attacking or dodging. I feel like I always just attack. So this kind of like is the best for me. I'm actually not sure. Maybe they made the damages better in other things like Bladestorm or something. I don't know. I don't think they have. Last time I did all the math, Cyclone still does a ridiculous amount of damage. It's just the only thing they did is they screwed you over with your cannot be stunned. They took that off the skill. So you get that with the Juggernaut. Pretty cool. You get the move speed, that's always nice. Action speed can't be reduced. Movement speed can't be reduced below the base value. This basically makes temp chains a joke. It makes any boss that slows you, like Uber Elder has this giant chill that slows you just a ridiculous amount. This, you're just immune to that, basically. You just jump away. It's like a joke. So this is just a really good ability, quality of life. If you find yourself not in the situation where you think this is useful a lot, you switch to this, and then you get even more physical reduction, elemental reduction, some chaos resist. Really nice. This one gives you basically perfect accuracy. 1,000 accuracy is a lot, and then they also give you accuracy based on your strength, so that's another 650 for me. 617? Oh, I guess I lost some with my recent swapping stuff around. Oh well. Then you get some crit or some damage. You get a bunch of accuracy if you crit, so you get accuracy and crit, and then you get attack speed based on your accuracy. So you just kind of get a lot of little cool stuff. And yeah, basically you always hit with your things, even against evasive monsters. So chance to hit. I don't have any other investment into it, and I have a 100% chance to hit normal monsters, and then evasive is 96%. And you need a high chance to hit if you're going to be going a crit build. So just one node gives you all of that, plus it gives you attack speed and a little bit of fluff on the side. So yeah, that's basically the tree. I guess you take this over this if you have a high enough chest plate, and then you also get some regen. Basically, my chest plate makes it so I get 13% physical reduction for taking this node, and 5% all other damage reduction. So that's really good compared to this, which is 8 LE, and then 7 fizz, because we get 7 endurance charges, so 7 fizz, and then some chaos res, but it's not damage reduction for the chaos. So yeah, that's how that works. Just flat damage reduction is better. I just think this node's better. Looking at the tree, I take the life nodes here because they're life nodes and not like just crappy fizz or attack speed or something like that. They're actually life. So you take the percent life, you take this over here for even more percent life. This one gives you 20 strength. It's just one node that's okay. It's just like an okay value. So value node here. If you have a good corruption on your timeless jewel here, you can route this way. But this one's not really useful for me, so I just didn't go with it. I went this way to get a little bit of overwhelm. I know that you get some overwhelm from your impale support. This one, 30% impaled damage dealt to enemies impaled by supported skills overwhelm the damage reduction. So impale damage, that's the reflected damage that they take from the impale stacks themselves. This doesn't actually give you overwhelm for your ability. It's just the damage that the impale does is impales. But I mean, impales are like 70% of your damage or something like that. So sweet, overwhelms damage, awesome. It's good. But this gives you overwhelm physical damage reduction. That's basically penetration up to 0. It doesn't go past 0. So you want some of that with your main hits, because your actual hits, the amount of damage that your impales that your thing hits for is how much your impale will start ticking for. So this also, it's like I think it's a double dip at least. I haven't done looking into it, but I'm pretty sure it works like that, because your hits would be bigger. Same with double damage, since your hits are bigger, your impales are bigger. So this is just like an okay node to get. And then you have an awkward travel node here for 1, 2, 3. You get your cluster thing for 1, 2, or not your cluster, just your regular jewel. You get your regular jewel for 3, 1, 2, 3, and you get the Watcher's Eye. If you want to go impale, you want as many stacks as possible, because you might as well just go if you're not going to get up to 9 stacks, why would you go impale? Like, maybe you can get away with 7, maybe, but you want to try to get up to 9. So you start at 5. This one gives you 2 more. And then I also use precision, so cannot be blinded. I don't know if that matters. I don't know if I get blinded. No idea. But it's a little bonus. I use it for that. I could use something else there, I suppose. I think it's good. I think that's the way to go with this current build. And then you get to your cluster jewel. Your cluster jewel gives you deep cuts. That's the one that gives you impales last longer. So now I was at 5, then with the jewel I went from 5 to 7. Now I'm at 8. I have 1 more over there, so that's 9 total impales. That's 9 hits that my impales last for, so a lot of damage. and then you add the Impale effect on there, so it's 10% for 5 hits. Well, now with the Impale effect, it goes to like 17 for 9 hits. So yeah, it's like 150% more damage or something like that. So your Impales actually do like 3/4 of your damage. And if you can't get your Impales that high, you might as well just go like elemental conversion or something like that. I don't know. LE conversion I know is strong, so. What else? This one's just a really good one. If you happen to find one with Brutal Infamy, that's 60% increased damage to uniques. Pretty good. Yeah, then I go the Warcry Jewel. The Warcry Jewel, I don't really get exerted attacks, so this one doesn't really do anything for me. But when I Warcry, I get Onslaught, so kind of checks a box for me. And then this one gives me Intimidate. When my Warcries hit them, it gives me Intimidate. So that's pretty sweet because I couldn't figure out a way to get Intimidate into my build other than this. So yeah. Got Life, multi res. Just an okay jewel. I don't think I needed the resistance. Yeah, I guess my cold is a bit low, but I think I could screw with some of my resistances over here to make it so. But it just gives me something. It's basically life 25% multi. So it's a good node it's a good jewel. Okay jewel. Not the best. Take this wheel here. Damage crit multi. You take this wheel here if you're interested in this and you believe in Fortify. I do. Fortify is awesome. So it gives you 20% less damage taken from hits. That's a less multiplier, so it makes you 20% more tanky in regards to hits. That's not like the ailments like the bleeds and the poisons that come off of those hits, but that's still 20% less damage. Well, 10% more effective. Increase effectiveness. It goes from 20% less to 22% less damage taken from hits. So I think it's just another way to increase your damage, and your tankiness. So just a really good wheel. If you believe in that kind of stuff, you get another one. Increase effect of Fortify here. Crit multi. They moved. It used to be over here. They moved it over here. So just kind of trying to incentivize people to realize how good this node is, which is, I think it's pretty good. So 1+ to max endurance charges. Yep, that we're Juggernaut. That's what we get. Jewel here, life, multi, attack speed, area damage. It's just okay. You realistically you want three multis and a life or something like that. Yeah, then you get the life node because you're a tank, so you want to be tanky. You go over here, you grab some warcries. They're instant. That's awesome. So you can just kind of like you set it here, and then you just kind of like walk around in your warcry. I whirlwind. I cyclone with my middle button, so I can't with my pointer finger. I can't click my left mouse button while I'm clicking my my cyclone. So I put it on my Q and my main click, just so it's always running. It's always up. The cooldown is 4.32 seconds. It lasts for 4.48 seconds. Basically, it's always up if I use it on cooldown. So, pretty cool tool there, if I do say so. And I do. So then, since you like your warcries, you go for some buff effect, sure. Some duration, sure. Duration and cooldown recovery speed, fine. You wouldn't go for this node unless you had this. So, warcries reduce the damage that enemies deal for 1 second. So that's 25% of the time they reduce their damage by 10%. Yeah, pretty good. But then it also is enemies that are taunted take 5% increased damage. So realistically, you don't need this node. Probably this would be the last one you get. Maybe you drop this one for some more damage or some more tankiness, some more life, something like that in your build. It's fine. It's not great. This one's super good, gives you enemies can't leech life from you, so basically equates to more damage against leeching enemies. But it also is good life. And then strength, because we have a lot of strength in our build, and our build benefits from strength in more than just the basic way. Since we're Juggernaut, we talked about that before with the node here. And then you get the impale nodes here because you want a high chance to impale. You want impale effect. This one, it only works on non-impaled enemies, so it's just your first impale does a lot of damage. So it helps with your flicker a little bit because it gives you a little bit more oomph with your flicker impales. But for cycloning, it doesn't really do anything. It just, yeah, it's not super great for this. But then you look at this node and it says 10% increased effect of your impales with two-handed weapons. That's all your impales. So 10% effect is very good. If you look at the rest of the tree for impale effect, so here's an impale node. There's no impale effect here. You'd have to route this way for 10% for 2 points. So still better. Here's impale down here. Increased impale effect by 5. There's another 5. They don't just hand out impale effect, so it's very strong. Yeah, these ones are area of effect, so those aren't impale. Overwhelm. Yeah, there's not the point is there's not a lot of impale effects, so 10% is good. You want to get that wherever you can, and Champion just gets that for free in one of his smaller nodes. So also this one gives me 5% increased strength, so 5% increased strength gives me a good amount of strength, so that's awesome. Then we get to my timeless jewel. Here's all the corruptions. You just saw 5% increased strength. You take 10% reduced damage from crits. Fine. Lots of the damage you die from is crits, so that's awesome. Melee crit strike, just more damage. Increased effect of Fortify, we already talked about that. Fortify is awesome. Increasing the effect is even awesomer. Increased maximum life. Yeah, 4% life on a jewel. That's great. And then more melee crit chance. So you got melee crit chance twice. For 60, you got 4% life, you got 2% damage reduction from hits, you got reduced extra damage from crits, and you got strength. So just a pretty good timeless jewel. And these aren't too hard to roll, I noticed. It only took me 1 divine orb to get this, and then I was looking at the other corruptions. 20 strength, good. Fire resist, fine. Melee damage. Stun duration sucks, that's why I didn't go grab this. But yeah, there's not too many to choose from. Fizz damage, melee damage. Between all of them, you're gonna find a good one pretty quick. This sword node isn't super great, but it's better than a lot of the ones on the tree, so you take it in this one, especially since it has the corruption on it from the timeless jewel. This is just a good life wheel. You always get these two. There's your endurance charges. Good life wheel. You always get these two. The warcries. I thought this one was pretty good, especially since I have the corruption on it, and exerted attacks deal increased damage. I don't exert attacks, so I don't exert attacks. Ugh. It's rambling so long. My voice is stringing all the words together. Take a sip of my water. Alright, so exerted attacks. We don't exert attacks. Increase warcry cooldown recovery speed. Good. And then damage if you've warcried recently. You've always warcried recently. And then 10% life. So it's like 600 just instant, 640 instant life whenever you warcry. That's pretty good. Not too bad, especially since it doesn't cost any cast time. For one node, I guess for 3 nodes, but I mean you also get melee crit. Yeah, pretty good for this corruption. Maybe if you had a worse corruption on this, it wouldn't be worth it, but for mine it definitely is. Crit multi here, and then you get to your second jewel. I didn't go get this one because it was just bad, but you really don't need it. There's so many points you want to get on your tree anyways. So deep cuts, that's the important one. You're trying to get at least 1 deep cuts on all of your cluster jewels. This one was just okay, and I definitely needed to get to the jewel slot. This one's good. It's 24% increased damage, and then 30% multi. So multi's really good. Turns out 30% is a lot. So attack speed just for quality of life, and damage, obviously. The faster you attack with a two-handed weapon, the better it is. And what is this, 17? Let me just... 13, 11, so yeah, 17% attack speed, melee crit chance. Pretty good jewel. I don't know. You can see I have a lot of attack speed in my jewels, so if you don't, maybe you want to use like dash instead of leap slam or something like that, with like maybe even the dash helmet enchant to give you 4 charges on your dash, and then you'll be zooming around just as fast as me. Then you travel over here. You need some int in your build. If I take this off, I need int, so yeah. Certainly need the int. Melee damage, fine. Corrupted blood, you need that, and then life. So basically, yeah, simple build, pretty cookie cutter. You just try to be efficient with all your points. Oh, then you get this by allocating Constitution. The other allocation you can get is if you decide to route down to Constitution. It's not a bad idea. You just have to drop some damage, or like even this cluster over here would be fine to drop, and just route over here. My guy's, level 95, so you keep that in mind too. But if you didn't want to allocate this one, Constitution, you can allocate this one. I think this is the other strongest one, crit multi. Yeah, not a lot of choice there. If you're going a crit build, crit multi is what you're looking for, and crit chance is going to help you get to that sick multiplier to increase your damage output. Let's look at the gear. So, I don't know. I think I mentioned it. I just want to be sure. Deep Cuts is Legacy only, so you can't get it outside of Legacy. So that's why going Juggernaut works with this build, but in League you'd probably have to go Champion to really see use out of it. You can go Berserk for even more damage, but I think with the Impales doing most of the work here, going for more Impale count is still probably going to do more damage than Berserker, and you get that damage reduction out of the Juggernaut even better, and then out of the Champion would be the second best, I would say. I mean, maybe Champion's the best. I think they're tied. It's just, what do you want? Do you want to be more tanky, or do you want to do 40% more damage? If you want to do 40% more damage, go Champion. If you want to be faster and jumping around, and you don't care about dying to like really mean mobs, really mean bosses, Berserker's probably fine. I don't know. I wouldn't try it. The only thing I'm considering is switching to Berserker. Or Champion, sorry. So yeah, let's look at the standard gear, the Legacy gear. Yeah, implicit enemies can't or enemies that die explode, basically. That's it. They explode and they do massive AoE damage to everyone, making your clear feel really clean. You can get this on your chest in League. You have to get it on your sword. You need to be in standard. It's Legacy now, or I'm not sure if it's Legacy, but I'm pretty sure you can't get it in League. If they change it somehow so that the interaction, like with I can't even remember what its name is, synthesizing. If you can synthesize something in League, you can get it, but it's probably would be near impossible to get it if you even could. Anyways, yeah, 820 DPS is this weapon, if I remember right. Yeah, it's a good weapon. You can get higher if you want. You can use the sword. Oh, it's not good for you guys anymore. That's only in standard. The Starforge, I was gonna say. Yeah, it's just a two-handed sword. Find a good two-handed sword and or axe, I guess. Anything basically. Big stick, just a big stick. And you're good to go. This one, I just went for a lot of life. I was using Abyssus earlier, but I kept dying, even though I was killing stuff really fast. It's like 35 to 40% more damage to use Abyssus in standard, because it's Legacy 222 multi. But I kept dying to like big fat bleeds and big fat poisons. So I just was like, screw it. I'll get more life. I'll get a little bit of fizz going on there. So I went and I tore apart my my Earthquake bleeder guy, and I threw this helm on him. So just giving that a shot. It seems to be working pretty well so far. Assassin's Mark on hit ring. Legacy craft for total mana cost of skills, making Cyclone free, basically. Yeah, this will be a little harder to get in League now that the multi mod is now Legacy too. You can only have 3 modifiers, including that one. So you can't just multi mod around a single mod and it'd be awesome like this ring. So that ring's Legacy. Armor gives you, this one just gives me a bunch of life, gives me some damage from the support skill bonuses. And then attacks have bonus crit. That's super good because you want to crit a lot, obviously. Physical, taken as fire. Fine, it reduces it reduces the fizz you take from hits. I guess your bleeds would still be just as big, because the ailments is, yeah, the amount of damage you do with a hit doesn't matter. It's the amount of bonuses to the ailment. So I don't think it would reduce that. Still a big fat bleed, but the hit itself you take less damage from, so that's good. Life resists on this. I needed like a mule for all of my resistances to come from somewhere, so I chose the ring. Just a ton of resist, T1 life, and then some damage, some baby damage. The amulet, I needed a ton of stats to make my dex and int requirements. Int you need for infused channeling. It's 114, and I have exactly that, it looks like, because I have a level 21 infused channeling, so that's hilarious. I didn't realize that was exactsies. And then for the dex, I needed a lot too, so I have 174, and I needed for flicker strike 155. So yeah, just needed a lot of stats, and then I guess I wanted life and multi the most, so I bought a ring or an amulet that had that allocated constitution good to go. For this, I get both of my leeches, fizz and mana, and then I also, optimize for life. I actually only ran the lab one time, and I got Commandment of War, which is a physical thing. It spawns like swords when you kill stuff, and it just does bonus damage, so that was really cool and pretty lucky. You get some life here, a bunch of resistances to follow it. You're good to go. I enchanted damage on it. This one, the lab wasn't as successful. It just gave me some fire damage, which isn't great, but I don't use brutality in my links, so it gives me some flat bonus damage. Pretty okay, I guess. Not awful. Could be worse. Yeah, lots of life. 28% movement speed, not great, but the life is kind of what I'm looking for to be as tanky as I can be. Flasks, I've got movement speed, super movement speed. I've got lucky crits. I've got reduced curse, removes curse. This one's legacy. Oh, or any of these other legacy stuff? No, I think most of this. I guess this was legacy. It's got 50 life on it, so that's legacy. This is also legacy. 34 melee fizz instead of 25 would be the max in normal, so a little bit more damage there. This you should be able to get in League still. I don't think it's legacy yet. I bet you it's pretty expensive though, because it's pretty good. Definitely good. It basically makes any enemies that are standing on your consecrated ground get crit all of the time, like a ridiculous amount of the time, and then they also take increased damage. And that would be one weak part of this build, is that it has a lot of instances where it makes enemies take increased damage, and it's only a more multiplier up until like a certain point, but when you just keep stacking increased damage on it, it kind of starts to lose its charm. So like if you had 100%, then you went to 7%, it's no longer 7%, it's like 5% or something like that. It decreases every time you go with another increase on it. Alright, so let's look at the links real quick. Main hand uses Flicker Strike with Impales, so obviously Impales are what you do. Multi-Strike, because it's Flicker Strike, so yeah, that makes sense so far. Fortify, and this allows me to not have to use Fortify in my main link, so as long as I use Fortify every 10 seconds or so by using like a single flicker, and usually bosses like jump around and stuff like that, I'll have Fortify up for the whole fight, so kind of cool. And then I use Ancestral Call and Melee Splash, and that's the way to get Impales to stack on enemies and make them pop really fast, and as soon as they pop, basically the whole mob pops because of the the enemies killed explode. So that's pretty cool. Then for the helm, I got most of my auras here, so I got MAME support linked with Flesh and Stone, so increased Fizz by 16%, and then another 14% there, so 30% increased Fizz, and then here's another. Enemies take more Fizz damage, so that goes up to 40%, so that's already 70% increased just from the auras alone, so they take a lot more damage. And then my other auras are Dread Banner for Impale effect. That's 19% Impale effect. I really want to get this to 21 to get that 20% Impale effect. I think it does that at least. I don't know. Seems like it should. In the gloves, I'm using Precision because my Watcher's Eye works with Precision. Could probably take this out. If I was to remove a link for anything, it would be this. Blood Rage with... that just helps me maintain my Flicker Strikes. You don't need it, but it makes it really nice. So, also increase attack speed by 20%. Not bad. Good damage buff for your Cyclone. Leap Slam. I use this with faster attacks. Otherwise, your other option is to use Dash and Second Wind support. So, those would be your options there. Already talked about the gem. So this gives me Onslaught when I'm clearing. Gives me Unholy Might when I'm clearing. But when I'm boss fighting or like fighting a spawner or something like that, you don't always have Onslaught. So that's why I use Lead by Example. So I always have Onslaught. Just gives me 20% increased movement speed and attack speed. Kind of nice quality and a little bit more damage. So not too bad. Free wins. And then I use Vol, Molten Shell. I actually don't know if this is good anymore. I heard it got nerfed. I haven't looked into what the nerfs are, but I'm still using it. Cast when damage taken support. This is just leveled relatively high, level 9, so that I can use a decent level of Vol, Molten Shell. Like I said, I don't know if it's still good. Maybe I'll be changing that up. I don't know. Increased durations for the Molten Shell, so it pops, it lasts longer uptime if there's more duration. Duration doesn't increase the cooldown time, even though the cooldown time for your guard skills don't start until the skill's over. It still gives you more overall uptime, and then that's just linked with Enduring Cry as well, which starts at a 2-second duration. Now it's, after all the tree stuff, it goes to 4.48 seconds, so... Overpowered skill, Enduring Cry. It only takes one link and a couple of stuff on your tree to really turn it on. Overall, I would say that this build is the strongest build I've ever played. I've been playing POE for some time now. It's kind of like an all-around build. Obviously, there's stronger mapping builds. There's probably stronger boss killing builds. I haven't really played any of the strike builds, so I haven't worried too much about that. I prefer the Cyclone playstyle. I don't really like burning arrow builds. I don't like phase acro builds if they're bossing builds, because one hit just makes you drop and that doesn't feel good. But yeah, if you're just looking to crush stuff with a big fat dude with a big fat stick, this is the way to go. Pantheons are, I picked this one because my chaos resistance is terrible, so I want to avoid the elements, and also just good damage reduction for tanky stuff. And then same with this, I don't want to be poisoned if I can avoid it, and that's why I have my recovery flask relate to poisons, and it's instant recovery. So I think I went over all the cool stuff. I think it was a good build guide. I hope it was helpful. Maybe you're just theory crafting some stuff around, throwing some numbers around, and this would be a good starting point. I certainly would recommend it. And if you do try it, let me know how it goes. Let me know if you chose to go with Champion instead. Let me know if you went Berserker instead. Pretty curious about those. Honestly, I'm most curious about Champion. I want to give it a shot, but I'm too lazy. I'm not going to spend a couple hours revamping, rerouting a tree. Maybe I will. I don't know. It'll be in the description below if I make a champion tree as well. Probably will be pretty well thought out, so don't worry about me just slopping something together. I'll make sure it's decent, because I'm actually considering myself. So if you stuck around for the whole build, guys, thanks for sticking with it, and good luck. Bye.